Hello, I'm Jonathan,
And I'm Sam.
and this is Progression in Progress. Okay, Sam, you ready?
Sure, why not?
Okay, I'm super excited for today's episode. And truth be told, we're not ready. We're not 100% ready, but that's kind of the point.
We'll never be ready if we keep talking about being ready.
But here we are recording.
Oh, dang.
Okay, so I'm pretty hyped. I'm pretty hyped for today's episode. I'm actually pretty hyped.
I am too. It's a good one.
So I want to start off by telling you the story of how I did nothing.
How you did nothing.
Yes, sir. I want to tell you about all my past projects that sucked. No, well, they didn't suck. I don't want to be that negative, but I didn't do much with them. In the past, kind of just like every teenager who grew up in the YouTube era, or anyone involved in creative stuff at all, or just anyone, I feel like anywhere. I feel like everyone does this. But you know the number of Gmail accounts I have
How many?
for projects that I was going to work on?
No. What is it?
I probably have like 5 or 6 different Gmails for projects I was going to work on.
Jeez.
And you know how many of those projects I'm still working on right now?
How many?
Like 1.
Nice.
So there's kind of a problem there, question mark, maybe.
1 out of 7. Not bad. Not bad.
But you know what was the big problem with all those projects? I didn't do anything.
That is a problem. Gotta do something for it to actually be a project.
Yes, and that's the theme for today, is just doing things. This isn't a Nike sponsorship, but we are going to be talking about just doing things.
Yeah. I mean, that kind of sounds kind of dumb. Or just kind of silly, you know?
It seems pretty obvious that to get
Are you
things done.
saying that you have to do things in order to do them?
Yes,
for
it
them to
kind
come
of pretty
to
simple. It kind of sounded dumb, kind of redundant, but to actually do things, to make progress, you actually have to do things. It's kind of a crazy concept.
Yeah, how do I just do things if I don't know what do I do? What if
Well, I think, what are we really talking about here? I feel like we're being a little too ambiguous. What are we really talking about?
I think what we're talking about is the idea, or I guess not the idea, the we're talking about having an idea and going about executing the idea.
Yeah, I
By
think
doing it.
we're just talking. I feel like we're having trouble describing it because it's almost too simple to describe.
Yeah, it's
You
too simple.
You just have to do something. We're talking about just doing something. So I'm going to lay out the classic project, like classic someone's getting involved with the project, whatever it may be. It could be something, I don't know, business related. It could be something creative related. It could be YouTube. It could be Twitch. It could be something just, I feel like the classic project is like, boom, you have an idea. And you're like, wow, this is an amazing idea. I really want to do this idea. I really want to put in some work to this idea. And then what do you do normally? You start like doing things, kind of. You kind of start doing things, but I feel like the classic mistake that people make, and I've made this mistake numerous times, hence all my email addresses that I've created that I don't use. The classic mistake is you overthink the little details, and you overthink like all the things surrounding the big main idea, but then you don't actually do your idea, or you don't actually do what you wanted to do, you set out to and do.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Is that making sense at all?
So it's like basically the whole it's got to be perfect before I can start doing it kind of mentality.
A little bit. Or it's just like, yeah, it kind of like that. Or just for some reason, I don't know, this happens with me a lot, but people love the details. Sometimes that kind of stupid to say, but it's like people like the details. Like, for example, I've done this in the past. I've known people who have done this in the past. and I'm sure it's a very, very common thing, especially between like younger people, is like, okay, let's be honest, we're living in the era where every kid wants to be like a YouTuber, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just the other day, James was talking about, he's like, John, can I make YouTube videos? And I'm like, yeah, go for it. But you have to do it all yourself. I ain't doing it for you. That might be a little mean. Sorry if that's a little mean. Sorry, James. I love you. But, everyone just wants to, that's what they do. They just watch YouTube all day. They just kind of grow up glued to YouTube Kids, maybe, question mark. Not everyone, but that happens.
Definitely.
And but it's natural, everyone this still happens, but maybe more so 40 years ago, whatever. Everyone grew up playing tons and tons and tons of sports. So what do they want to do? They want to play sports,
Mm-hmm.
But just kind of talking about what I have a little more experience with, like, for example, you want to start a YouTube channel or something like that, or you want to start a business, or you want to just do anything. People will start thinking about all the little details. They'll start thinking about the name. They'll start thinking about the logo. They'll start thinking about all the little things that you eventually will set up, right?
Yep.
You'll start thinking about stuff like that. But in reality, what do you need to do? You just need to do it. And that's the mistake I feel like I've made a bunch in the past, and that other people have made in the past, is they don't actually do it.
Yeah. And I mean, and it's not like those things aren't important or won't eventually need to be done. It's just that you don't need to have everything completely finalized, or you don't have to have everything be 100% perfect, because anything can change later on. But all those little tiny things, just they're not the actual thing you're trying to do. Like, I don't know, what's a good example? Like, if you're making a YouTube channel and you spend all of your time just learning how to edit and how to, make the best transitions and all of that, which are good things and important things. But if you don't actually spend any time in front of the camera shooting a video, then you don't even have anything. What was all that for?
And I feel like we're just talking about YouTube because we know that well. I mean, it's something we're both interested in and have learned a lot about. So like, it's easy for us to talk about it, but I feel like this applies to anything.
Oh yeah.
And I feel like what I'm about to say right here applies to like everything, like so much more than what we were just talking about, is the classic mistake of buying a bunch of stuff before you actually start doing things. Like people are like, oh, I want to do this. I want to do X, Y, Z. I don't know. Just throw something out there, Sam, and I'll try to come up with the example.
I want to start sewing.
Okay, I want to start sewing. So you go out and you buy the best sewing machine. You go out and buy the best fabric. You go out and buy the best needles and stuff like that. And you go buy all this stuff, but you don't actually know how to sew.
Yep.
And like, let's say you were trying to do something with your sewing other than just a hobby, just for yourself or whatever. You were trying to like make it for people or whatever, or you were going to try to sell it or whatever. You're going to actually make, I guess, clothes you were going to wear. And what you're going to find, I feel like, is the people who go out and buy all that stuff right at the beginning are not going to be any better than that rando person who's really good at it and has trash equipment.
Yep. In fact,
what's the difference?
With the trash equipment might even be better, just because they actually know what they're doing.
Exactly. It's because they're actually doing something. They have experience doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I know I've done this in the past. I could list off a bunch of people that I know who have done this. It's just people get caught up in the game and they have these, everyone has idols when it comes to certain things. Everyone gets inspired. And I think that's a good thing. Everyone gets inspired and sees people doing these things. And they're like, oh, I got to have this. I got to have XYZ to be like XYZ or to do what that person's doing. Right.
Yeah. It's like guys started off with their level of success, but that never happens.
Yeah. It's like, I don't know, people, and I've made this mistake too in the past, but people don't realize why things are successful or why people are popular or why people actually, I'm not even talking like success in like, oh, making $1 million success. I'm just talking about success in actually doing what you set out to achieve. Right. Mm-hmm. If, for using your sewing example, like I'm not saying becoming the most successful sewer in your town or having a business with sewing and being super successful for that. But what I mean is like the people who actually learn how to sew and actually get good at sewing. The difference is, or to get there, you actually have to do it.
Yeah. You can't just have you can't just be watching things or just be thinking about things. And even if you buy all the equipment and everything, like until you actually just do it or start learning how to do it, then it's all pointless. You'll just be stuck in the same place forever. And
Yeah. So
yeah,
I feel like we're kind of talking about some stupid things, and I'm kind of getting a little excited. And we've almost been talking for 10 minutes now about sewing. Just kidding. We haven't been talking about just sewing, but we've been just talking about for 10 minutes, just doing things. And it sounds, like I said before, it just sounds so simple, but it's something I'm really trying to work on. It's something that I feel like can apply to everyone else. I don't know. It's just a concept that I've been thinking about lately, is just actually doing things.
Mm-hmm. It's as dumb as it sounds, it really can be, or is kind of one of the hardest things. Like they always tell you, like in school, for example, like when you're going to write an essay, they're always like, okay, you just need to start writing it, because if you don't just start writing it, you're just going to start thinking about it and thinking about it and thinking about it, and you'll never get anywhere because you're just so frozen with, oh, how am I going to start it? Like, what's my topic sentence, or whatever. It's just starting it, and then things just kind of start happening, start working out. You start actually developing, more on your idea, or more ideas from starting off, and, seeing what you know, what you don't know. And, things actually happen and come out of that process of beginning something, not from being stuck in the planning phase or the thinking about it kind of phase. You gotta start moving forward and beginning something before you can actually complete something and release something or do something. Like it just sounds so basic, so simple, but everything it really is dependent on that almost.
I think the essay, just writing, like it sounds so silly, and it's obviously easier than said than done. It is. There's a reason I feel like people struggle with just doing things, because sometimes, even though it doesn't make sense, like the details are easier, because the details, it's easy to get the details. It's easy to just buy your sewing kit. I don't know why we keep talking about sewing, but it's easy to buy your sewing kit. It's easy to buy your camera to make your videos. It's easy to buy your guitar to make music. It's easy to go take out a loan. No, I don't know if it's easy to take out a loan, but it's easy to, that was stupid. It's easy to
spend money.
It's easy to, I don't know, for example, if you were going to go make food and try to do something with that, it's easy to buy the ingredients, but the hard part is actually doing it. So It's like, I don't want to make it sound like it's easy, but I feel like you have to get over that hump of just doing it. And that's what you were just talking about with the essay, is like, you kind of have to just get over that hump to and just start doing things.
Yeah, I think that, and it's not like we want to, like, trivialize, like, of course, if you want to be a doctor, you can't just go do it and start operating on people without any kind of training or anything like that.
Yeah, that is true.
Like, you'll definitely go to jail for that. But
sorry, go ahead. Hello, go ahead. Hello?
Hi. Sorry, I lost my train of thought.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's all good.
Well, okay. Well, what I was going to say, and interrupt me when you regain your train of thought. But even with the doctors, they don't just go from like, okay, I want to be a doctor, bunch of school, and then all of a sudden they're a doctor. They actually practice, they do stuff. They work with cadavers, and they have models, and they practice things, So like, even doctors, even that example, you don't want to trivialize it and make it just be like, oh, just go do it, just do it, dummy. It doesn't work like that for everything. But even those people are like still technically doing it. I feel like they're actually practicing, they're
putting in the steps to actually make it a reality.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even if you can't, do the thing you want to do right away, you can start taking the steps towards getting to whatever that is you want to do, whether that is some kind of, education or some kind of training, something like that. As long as it's, getting you closer towards your goal, and not something. I think there's kind of a difference between, learning something to get acquire the skills to do it, and also like, having the technical ability to do it and then just not doing it because of being frozen or hung up on other things.
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
I think that's mostly what we were talking about before. Like, anyone can buy, all this gear and stuff to do any kind of hobbies or videos or whatever it is. But then you actually have to like put those to use, which is, I think, is what a lot of people get hung up on.
Well, I think the reason people don't do it, it's tough. It's tough to do it, and people get hung up on these things for a reason. And maybe we can talk about a few of the little reasons that people get caught up in, like, for example, people get caught up in the details. Like, why do you feel like people get caught up in the details?
Well, it's just, I feel like so many people look at everyone has some kind of, I think we were talking about earlier, a lot of people have inspirations for anything that they go out to do. They usually see something and they're, okay, I want to do this my way or better or whatever. And I feel like a lot of people look at those and they say, okay, they have all these things, they have a perfect setup. They have a perfect, anything, whatever it is, they have it all figured out. And I think it's just so easy to get caught up. People just get caught up in, okay, in order to be at their level, or in order to do what or
just make progress in general is what they're thinking.
I think so. Yeah. Or just, making progress equals getting everything right the first time.
I think, well, I'm glad you said that, because I was going to, if I were to answer my own question, which I'm going to do, sorry. I think that's exactly what I was going to say, is like, people look, and they look at other people doing what they want to do, and then they see all the details, because the details are the easiest thing to see. And then the details are the easiest thing to emulate, which kind of doesn't like, when I say it out loud, it kind of is like, wait, that doesn't make sense. But I feel like that's how it is. Like, for example, if you were to be like, oh, I'm looking at this, you go to a wealth management firm or whatever, and you're like, I want to do wealth management. And you see all these guys, wearing white suits and ties, sitting at a desk with 3 monitors, and like a giant calculator doing their thing, and like a bunch of Excel spreadsheets. You might be like, okay, I need 3 monitors. I need a white shirt and tie. I need that giant calculator, and I need Excel and do all those things. But in reality, those are just tools those people are using. It doesn't matter if you have the tools if you don't know how to use them. The real value comes from the skills that they have and what they're actually doing. And I feel like this happens all the time, especially with internet culture, like either on like making videos for like YouTube or like live streaming. People will see, oh, this guy's got a really nice camera. This guy's got a really nice microphone. This guy's got a really nice background. I need a really nice camera, microphone, background. But in reality, people don't watch them for their nice microphone. People don't watch them for their nice camera or their nice background. People watch them because they produce content. They produce something. They actually do something.
Mm-hmm. And it's more, I mean, those little things definitely help. But at the end of the day, people are watching for you and for what you're doing, not what everything, looks like, or, yeah, it's kind of hard, because I almost feel like we say something, or we have been like saying these things, and then almost like I don't know, like it's important, but it's also not important.
Well, those details are important. And eventually, I think my personal opinion is those things are important, but they're not the main thing. Like those, I feel like those things come over time, and they are supplemental to what you actually do.
Definitely.
It doesn't replace what you do. And I feel like people get caught up in it, and then sometimes that replaces what they actually do. While you were talking, I thought of a perfect story about this. Okay, so back when I was like, so I don't play a lot of sports because I can't play a lot of sports. But one sport that I can play is ping pong. All right. It's kind of stupid, but I'm actually slightly decent at ping pong, and I think it's really fun. And I have a good time playing it because I can't really play it. Like, I literally can't play any other sports. So ping pong's my thing, And back when I took this is kind of dumb, kind of dorky, but back when I took ping pong lessons, like from a coach, those exist, by the way, like
What?
this guy. So I went to this place where people play, and this guy was teaching me, right? And I came in with like a trashy paddle, like the trashiest paddle that like you get with a, that comes with the ping pong table, or like that you would buy at Dick's Sporting Goods or whatever. And it's like $5. And okay, most people, to be honest, most people are going to be like, there's different types of ping pong paddles. I'm kind of getting to the details here, which is a problem. I'm kind of being a hypocrite here. Shoot, this is not good. But well, actually, hold on. Let me finish the story and it'll make sense. So, there's actually really nice ping pong paddles, and it actually really does make a big difference. But then this guy who was teaching me, I was like, look at this trashy paddle I have. And then I don't know how this happened, but I'm like, hey, can you beat me with this paddle? Like if you give me a good one or trade me paddles or whatever, and I have this super nice one, and then you play me with my super trashy one, like super, super trashy one, what's going to happen? And we ended up actually playing. And this like freaking like 80 or he wasn't 80. He's probably like the 60-year-old dude, and I'm just like this like 12-year-old kid, not knowing how to do anything, not really knowing how to play ping pong. And we play, and I have the nice paddle and he has the trashy paddle. And can you guess who ends up winning?
No idea. Just kidding. It was probably that guy.
The coach. He won. And it didn't matter that he had a trashy paddle. And why did it matter that he didn't have the right equipment? Is because he was actually good at it. He actually knew what he was doing. He actually knew how to do it,
Yep.
And I didn't know anything that I was doing. I didn't know how to use the tool. I didn't know how to use the nice paddle. It didn't matter that I had a super nice paddle because I didn't know how to use it. And just to what you were saying earlier, once you know how to use it, it is beneficial, but it's not the actual it's not the actual thing,
It kind of reminds me of what we were kind of talking about in another episode where, eventually it was kind of like when you were talking about how, hard work versus luck, like, you have to keep working at something or learning how to do something. And then, there starts to become a point where you can't learn how to do anything better, and you have to get better equipment to continue on, kind of a thing. But I feel like people assume either that they are at that skill level or just have to get to that point, or just need that kind of equipment or that investment up front, or else they can't get to that level. And then they just end up not doing anything because they don't have those foundations, when instead they're just trying to go for the very top at the beginning and maybe getting overwhelmed at times. I think that's a big part of it, just getting overwhelmed with all the things that you think that you have to do, when I think most successful people gradually build up to that and then are able to thrive in that kind of environment. Whereas instead of just, getting everything at first and then just not really knowing what to do with it, or just losing motivation because of all the stuff you have to set up or learn how to do, that's not even like integral to the actual task that you wanted to set out to do. If that makes sense.
Yeah. And I feel like it leads perfectly into another point that we wanted to talk about. Another obstacle for people is being a perfectionist. People, and I've been guilty of this in the past, and I know of people who have been guilty of this. They want to be a perfectionist when they do things. They want to, the first time they do something, they want to do it perfect. They want to, if you were to release a video, you want to have the perfect video. Or if you were to submit something for a film festival, you want to have everything perfect. Or if you were wanting to try to get into investing, you want to buy the perfect stock for the first thing. And, you don't want to mess up for the first thing. Or if you want to go play sports or do something like that, you got to have everything down. But in reality, that it doesn't work that way.
Yeah, not at all. Like I think most people probably don't succeed the first time they do things. And I mean, I don't know if I want to put that as the message, but like it's okay to not have everything 100% figured out when you're first going into it. Like, because
Well, I feel like
I don't know.
it goes back to what you were saying with the essay. Is like you can't get to the end product a decent essay if you don't actually put something down on the paper. You're going to have to improve it. You're going to have to make changes. You're going to have to do something. You know, I'm sure some people write good essays just all the way through, but I'm pretty sure if they went over it again and tried to make changes and analyzed it, they could make a better essay, you know? And you have to, and then over time, you know, that's pretty much all of school is, you know, you're out here writing trashy paragraphs when you're in second grade. And by the time you're getting to college, you're writing an essay every week, you know, and they just constantly get better. You have to get better over time.
Yeah. And I think, where's it going with that? I think that kind of like, kind of gets into the whole, getting, what was I going to say? It like getting better as you go along kind of a thing, like actually progressing. Like you got to have something out there and then you can, or like, you know, the first thing you do isn't going to be the last thing you do. You're going to take that, you're going to learn from it. And then the next thing you do will be actually better. So like, it's like anything, like with the essay, you know, when you're in second grade, you're writing, you know, if any of you have ever looked back at your old writings that you've done as a kid, like it's honestly, it's pretty hilarious to see how much progress that you make, even over just like, you know, 1 or 2 years, but then going back even more, like you can't even spell words. It's the grammar is horrible. Can't even read the handwriting most of the time. And, you know, you come out and now you can write these huge essays and have all these complex arguments and thoughts and, you know, all that kind of stuff. And so, but you get that way by putting out something, you know, you do your little assignments and you build up on that skill over time until you can eventually get to those bigger ideas or those bigger bodies of writing, or anything. So just gotta start doing it.
Well, I feel like I have a personal example with that, and sorry that we keep talking about videos. And this isn't a podcast about videos, but I have some experience there. So I just keep pulling from that experience, but so sorry to keep bringing it up. But, you know, when I first started making videos, you know, they were decent, sure, whatever. But the thing is, they progressed. Maybe they weren't even decent. Everyone was just probably nice and enjoy them. You know, my family enjoys them because, you know, they're in the videos, you know, so they have a vested interest and they probably like it more than they actually should. But, you know, from a technical standpoint and from a video standpoint, you know, my first videos are poopy caca. They like, you know, they're not really anything amazing, but over time, as I kept making videos and as I continue to make videos, they have improved. And that's something that I feel like happens with creative stuff is you have this vision in your head and you're like, okay, I want this to be exactly like that. But in reality, it never turns out like that. But you just have to keep going and going and going and get better so you can take that vision that's in your head and effectively put it out as something and just improve and learn. And, you know, it's like this giant snowball. Mm-hmm. And we keep talking about a lot of creative stuff. Yeah. But I feel like this definitely does not just apply to creative things. I feel like this applies to anything. You have to just start to gain experience to learn and to grow and to do things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it can be for anything creative, anything, you know, even educational, career-wise. I mean, I sometimes I think about the whole, you know, you need a job to get experience, but you need experience to get a job kind of a thing. And so yeah. I get sometimes it can be difficult that way, but if you don't put in any kind of effort or try to get any kind of experience, or, you know, if you don't even try applying for any of these jobs, like you have no idea how many times I've heard stories of, you know, in fact, even personally for
tell your story. Tell your story how you got your second job.
Yeah. So okay, I was working I still do, but I was working my first job just at a retail store. Just kind of not really progressing too much, but I had a friend that my friend's girlfriend's friend, like, yeah, I think it's my friend's girlfriend's friend worked at this company, and he put out that they were looking for someone to fill this certain role. And my friend told me about it, and he sent me over the requirements to get the job. And the requirements were, you had to have a 2 or 4 year degree. You had to have previous experience in taking kind of like a kind of like call center kind of experience, things like that. And I saw that, and I was just like, there's no way I don't qualify for this at all. There's no way I would get it. And they encouraged me just to try and apply anyway. And so I was like, okay, what do I have to lose? And so I gave my I didn't even submit an application, actually. I gave my resume to my friend's girlfriend's friend, and he put in a word for me. And a few days later, I got a call from the hiring manager there, and they said they looked at my resume and they wanted to bring me in. And so I went in there, did an interview, and I didn't even think the interview went that great. Like, it wasn't bad, and I definitely vibed with everyone there. I thought it went okay, but I still, even after the interview, I was just like, well, I didn't have the qualifications, and I'm sure someone else applied and probably was way more qualified than I was. But then a few hours later, I got a call back, and they said they liked me so much that they just hired me on the spot. But of course, I had to wait a little while to get all the details sorted out. So, that's kind of an encouragement there. Like, just try things, just do things, just try to get what you want, because you never know. Sometimes it'll just work out, or you'll just get what you set out to do, even if you don't feel like you're fully ready yet or qualified yet. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think the moral of that story, and some people might say, oh, that was luck or whatever, or, that was just a one-off thing, I can't replicate that. But, and, that might be a fair assessment of that story. But I really think the moral of that story, and the reason I wanted you to tell it, is because you never would have gotten the job if you didn't do it, or if you didn't put in that application, or even just give the application to that friend or whatever. And I feel like that just applies in general to everything. You're never gonna be able to do X if you never do it. It sounds like, just like we were talking about at the beginning, it sounds so stupid and simple to say. Like, it's so obvious, but you actually just have to do it. Nothing is going to happen if you don't do it. That's I think just the point we're trying to make, and kind of to connect it to a general theme of this podcast is all about progression. You have to start somewhere to end up somewhere. You actually have to, pull your car out of the driveway and start driving on the road to get to your destination. You're not going to just sit there on the couch and then magically appear there.
Exactly.
Some people get lucky. Some people find a secret route. Some people have a one-hit wonder, in their industry or something like that. But in general,
but even with those people still did something.
That is true.
You don't get a one-hit wonder by not making the hit.
They still had to do something. And this sounds so stupid to say, but, and it just sounds so simple, but I've done this before, and I know there's people out there just sitting there right now out with an idea or what they want to, it doesn't have to be a creative idea, which, I mean, it's obviously included a creative idea. It can be anything. It can be for your career. It could be for your health. It could be for, friendship, relationship. It could be for anything. They have an idea, or they have something they want to do, or they have somewhere, they just want to do something and they have that idea, but they don't actually do it.
Yeah.
I've done that so many times where I've had this idea and I mull over the details and I just get caught up in the things that don't matter and I don't actually do the thing. That's why I have so many emails for projects that didn't work out, is because I didn't actually do the thing. But in reality, you have to start somewhere, and it's okay that it's not perfect. It's okay that it might suck at first or things might not work out right at the beginning, because the whole idea is progression. At least for me, that's how it is. I want to make the perfect podcast episode. I put in a little bit of effort to make this a good episode, but it's probably not going to be as good as the episode, if we're, in a year from now. It's not going to be as good as episode 100, it's because but that doesn't mean we shouldn't be doing this right now. It doesn't mean that just because we don't have all this experience, it doesn't mean that we can't start. And that's the whole idea, is that I'm going to have to make 50 podcasts that 3 people listen to before I make one maybe that someone actually cares about and wants to listen to,
Yep.
But I'm never going to get to 51 where someone starts caring. I'm going to get to number 51 where someone starts caring if I don't make 1 through 50.
Yep. So I don't know. Did we talk about how reasons that people don't just do it, and those kind of roadblocks, or those
like the perfectionism and plans and stuff?
Yeah. I mean, I think
we talked about that.
Talked about it a bit. Yeah.
We should talk about it more.
I guess we don't. I just think one thing that kind of came into my mind that I don't know if we really hit on was the topic of fear.
Okay, yeah, go for it. We didn't talk about that.
So I think especially, this kind of applies for everything, and maybe we kind of talked about it a little bit, or at least in my story about getting one of my jobs. But I think one of the biggest things for a lot of people is just the fear. Fear in general, but I think it's more a fear of kind of putting yourself out there, or for it not being something safe. In my example, I was afraid of rejection. And I think a lot of people, I think we keep talking a lot about kind of creative things. If people making videos or putting out podcasts or anything like that, they're just so afraid of oh, well, what if no one likes it, or what if people make fun of us for it, or
or just to apply it to more things. It doesn't have to be creative stuff. It could be someone trying to switch majors. It could be someone switching jobs. It could be someone applying for a job. It could be someone picking up a new hobby. It could be someone trying to start a new relationship. It could be everything.
Yeah, it's scary to kind of go into those things. It's like going into the unknown. People are afraid of what's not perfectly documented and has a very clear, if you do this, this will happen. A lot of these things don't really have that. And so I think a lot of people do just kind of get so afraid of those things that they don't actually go out and do, or just start doing things. Just because of that fear of whatever it is, rejection, or just not accomplishing things at a level that you want to, or you build up to all those kinds of things, and eventually something always works out, even if it's not always in the form you initially imagined it would be.
Yeah, can I give a hot take real quick?
Go for it.
Okay. I think fear is a good thing, kind of, sometimes, to a point. Let me explain real quick. This episode's kind of getting long. We probably got to wrap up after this. But I think fear can be... first off, I'm in agreement that you shouldn't let fear stop you. Fear should not stop you. But I think fear is a good thing for not doing something stupid. But only to a certain extent. If you're if you have fear for doing something, I feel like that's your body and your brain's natural response telling you, oh, this is risky. Oh, this is XYZ, something bad could happen. And my personal opinion is you should use that fear to take a second to think and make a calculated effort instead of just going out willy-nilly. But at the end of the day, I don't know why I brought this up, because in the end of the day, at the end of the line, I do agree with you, is that you shouldn't let fear stop you, because you have to start somewhere. You have to get over that hump. It's not going to be perfect. There's going to be fear involved, but you have to get over that hump. I guess I was just throwing in my own philosophy there, and that probably wasn't super valuable. Sorry.
No, I think a big thing with fear is you have to, I listen some other podcasts that kind of talks about this, but if you have a fear, you kind of need to break that down, because a lot of the time the fear is kind of it has no basis. Like okay, if you have a fear of putting out something, then like say say you send in a resume or something, like you have all these, if you have a fear of getting rejected, well, okay, let's think about it. If you put in the resume, they send you a letter back, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? Like you're not going to, like, you just have to think about it more logically. Like, okay, you get a rejection letter, but does that mean that you're going to lose your current job, or does that mean that everyone's going to like nothing's going to happen? Like a lot of these fears, like people, you just kind of over exaggerate or think things that will happen that actually wouldn't, and instead of just going out and just doing the thing or putting yourself out there.
Well, I might take a slightly different perspective, but come to the same conclusion in a way where, like, I think something might happen. If you put something out there, if you go for the girl or if you go for the guy or whatever, if you put yourself out there, you might fail and there might be some slightly negative consequences. But I feel like that's for you to decide and make a calculated risk. At the end of the day, if you make that if you have a calculated thought process and you think about it and you have a plan, then you can't let fear stop you, because you're never going to achieve what you want. You're never going to be able to do that thing that you want if you let fear become a roadblock. I think fear should be a slight guidance, and then you have to eventually overcome it. You eventually have to let it go. I guess you'd eventually have to let it go and, actually do that thing. Yeah.
Like, of course, there'll be, there's always, an action or a reaction or a consequence to your actions. And I think, I of course it does depend on what you're doing, but I think for a lot of things, especially for kind of the things we've been talking about, most of them don't really have as severe consequences as I think a lot of people make them out to be. And of course, think them through and, have a plan no matter what you're doing.
Yeah.
But just start it. See where it takes you.
Yeah. And a lot of things, a lot of times we overhype the consequences, but there are things that do have real consequences. But the message that we're trying to get across at the end of the day is you actually have to, if you want something to happen, you actually have to do it.
Yep.
You actually have to start somewhere, even if it won't be perfect, even if if there's roadblocks, you actually have to do the thing that you want to do. You can't get caught up in the details for too much. The details are important sometimes, but not more important than actually doing the thing. So that's the message that we wanted to get across today, that you just actually have to do something. And it sounds like we said, it sounds simple, it sounds dumb, but you actually have to do it. You actually just have to start somewhere.
Yeah.
And I feel like that relates to us, something that I said last episode that I want to keep on doing is kind of, because the whole idea here is our whole perspective is we're in the midst of things. We're not coming from a top-down perspective of some people who have already, climbed the ladder or done the certain thing, or are, at the end of the race. We're at the beginning of the race. Yep. And I feel like that's where our perspective might provide value. And why I was so hyped to talk about this topic, because that's kind of what we're doing right now. We're kind of just doing it. I'm not saying we're doing it perfectly. I'm not saying we're the perfect example, but we are doing something. Sam, we're sitting here, we're doing something.
Yeah. And like, I guess maybe we can kind of talk a little bit. But before we started recording this, we kind of were going into, we had this kind of document, this outline of everything we were going to talk about in and trying to be all detailed for it.
Yeah, we were
And
trying to perfectly
then-
plan it.
Yeah. And then we just kind of realized as we were doing that we're putting way too much time, way too much, trying to make this as perfect as it can be instead of just going and actually doing it. And, here we are.
Yeah. And not to say planning
not as
isn't
good.
beneficial.
No,
Planning is
definitely.
beneficial. And, we had an outline. We still have things written down, and we've kind of hit on the points that we've written down. So we're not going in blind. We're not doing anything
Yeah.
without thinking about it. But there comes a certain
Don't be
point where
stupid.
don't be stupid, but there comes a certain point where, me and Sam could still be planning, but at some point you just actually have to do it. And that's the
Mhm.
message we're trying to get across today, is just actually do it. Not a Nike ad, not a Nike ad. I just bought some Adidas shoes. Okay. But it's, I just am getting passionate about this, that you actually have to start and actually want to do it. And I'm kind of hoping talking about this so much helps me to continue doing it, because I have a past of just getting caught up in the details and not actually doing it. But I really want to just do it, and, things will work itself out over time. And I don't need to be a perfectionist. I need to make a plan. I need to put in some effort, but I don't need to be a perfectionist. And
Yep.
you just actually have to do the thing. And that's so how this relates to us, how the perspective we provide is we're actually doing it right here. We have this idea for this podcast, and we're out here trying to do it.
Yep. Just trying every episode we'll get a little bit better. We'll be able to articulate a bit better, maybe be a bit more organized, but
Yeah.
it's getting better and better. So
Mhm. I mean, even from episode 0, the episode 0 we recorded, I feel like we've made significant improvements, and this is only episode 2.
definitely.
So there's just, I don't know, I'm running out of ways to say it. There's power in just doing things. So I'm going to stop being a broken record. And I've said everything that I want to say. Sam, is there anything else you want to say before we finish up?
Well, I think I'll just end with a quote from Shia LaBeouf. So, yesterday you said tomorrow. Don't let your dreams be dreams. Just do it.
All right. I think that's a pretty good ending. And I think we'll cut it off there. How do we do an outro? What do we do? We just got to do it. We just got to do it.
Thank you guys
Do
for listening to today's episode. Hope this inspires you to go out there and start doing whatever you've been thinking about doing. And I hope that works out for you.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Continue the journey
Peace
of
out.
success. Goodbye.